What's up, y'all? It's KT. If you guys are not already subscribed to the channel, what the flip are you doing? Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I thought I knew who my husband was, but I didn't find out that it was a lie until 2 years later. The point of this video was really to just show you guys some things that I missed and hopefully help be an aid in preventing you from continuously walking in deception or not even getting to that point. I'm essentially going to be proving the point of how much I had idolized the relationships and marriage throughout the telling of this story, in hopes that you guys can, one, recognize if it's an issue for your own self, two, release yourself from idolatry, aka deception, aka the hope of marrying a man that you're actually not called to be with. So yeah, let's get into it. I believe that I thought who my husband was based off of a dream. This can happen in a number of ways, but I know that a dream is really popular, and a lot of women either have visions or dreams about their spouse in particular. So essentially, I'll tell you guys the dates. So essentially it was May 23rd, 2022. I had prayed either that morning or maybe the morning before, and I just had asked the Lord, I was like, Lord, prepare me to be a wife, show me the things that I need to be shown, that kind of whole prayer, not necessarily expecting anything, right? And so I go to sleep, I wake up, and essentially I have a dream of a man in the bed. Is this too much, Lord? I have a dream of a man and I lying in the bed. There's like a kind of a morning sunset kind of bursting into the room, but there's a man with no face in the bed, and there's a child on his right side of his chest as I'm laying on the left side of his chest. Very calm natured dream. And so from this dream, I interpreted that the Lord was telling me that I was going to be married, because why would I be in the bed with a man that I'm not married to, right? And so that was kind of what the dream interpretation was supposed to be. But at that time, there was someone that I was talking to, not necessarily like romantically, but there was someone who had reached out to me, and I had taken kind of a slight interest to this person, but not enough for me to be thinking that he was my husband and that I wanted to marry him and all that whole thing, right? And so essentially, I started to put two and two together, and I asked the Lord, I was like, Lord, I had this dream. Is this the man that I'm talking to right now? Is this the man? And so I asked him to give me a certain sign. I thought that I saw the sign. Long story short, I took that and I ran with it. At the time, I started to realize that there was a gift of prophetic dreaming that I had for a long time. And so I think it was a mixture of excitement and kind of just taking it and running with it, basically. So I'll start to share a few of the dreams that I had that continuously led me into believing that this man was my husband. The first dream that I had, I'll highlight this. Now that I'm in a place of maturity in terms of interpreting my dreams, I realized that a lot of the dreams that I was having of him was dreams where we never met, or that we were supposed to meet, but we didn't, or I was supposed to give him something, but he didn't come. Just a lot of things where we had intentions of meeting, but there was never any actual meeting, or there was actually not an actual following through, if that makes any sense. Actually, well, one that I can recall, we were in there was a super long line of people. There was several people in between us. I was more so in the front, he was more so in the back. In my mind, I knew, oh my gosh, I'm here to meet this person, and I never interacted in this dream. At the time, I took this as, oh my gosh, we're gonna meet, it's just gonna take a really long time. And I wasn't entirely incorrect about that. But really the interpretation of the dream was that there was gonna be a lot of delay. There were gonna be things in between us that was gonna prevent us from being together. Without going and telling you guys all the dreams that I had, I will just say this: the series of dreams that I had, none of them were actually confirming that this person was my husband. If anything, they were just confirming why he was not my husband. But I'll also say this: usually whenever you have a dream, usually, not always, whenever you have a dream and there's a person without a face, that's more symbolic of the Holy Spirit. That's more symbolic of God and the Lord, right? I believe that the first dream I had was from the Holy Spirit. I believe the Lord was confirming that I would be married. But I think because of my own desires, and because I had kind of still been struggling with idolatry, because I had still been idolizing a relationship, I think that was kind of how the whole, this guy is the guy. I had made up in my mind that, oh, he was so mind you, this guy was a dark-skinned man in my dream. I did not see his face, but I saw his body and I saw his skin color. I'm like, oh, chocolate, boom, that's him, God. But now if you think about it and you kind of look at it from a logical standpoint, if the Lord was gonna show me this person, like actually show me him, why wouldn't he have been the person that was in the bed? Like, why would we play this, God, who is it, if this is the person that the Lord had already wanted me to be with, right? I go through this process of reaching out to him. We would talk, we would text and things of that nature. I had given him my number via conversation. And he would have these moments where he seemed to want to be my friend. He would have moments where he seemed to not want to talk to me. And so because of the up and down nature of his relationship with me, it left me so confused, y'all. I had these almost near perfect points of views of how I thought he would be. Mind you, when I got this dream and I had come up with me thinking that this was the Lord, I always was like, oh my gosh, I bet he's so great. You know, I bet he's such a man of God and all these things. And when I got to know him, it was kind of like, not the exact opposite, but essentially it was the opposite. Because at the time we were not really close. It took about 1.5 years, y'all, of me waiting for us to actually grow a friendship and actually find that we actually liked each other, right? But in that period, I'm just tearing, I'm asking, I'm praying for him, I'm fasting, I'm, interceding and all the things, hoping that he will talk to me and be my friend, y'all. And so it's actually kind of sad. We get to a point where it's about 1 year in, I essentially get kind of tired of him just talking to me one day, talking to me this month. He may respond, he may not respond. He was very inconsistent with his communication with me. I end up sending him this message, and long story short, I'm just like, hey, I value friendship and I want someone that's intentional, and I want it to be mutual in terms of friendship. I'm genuinely expressing my desire to be his friend, and I kind of just got frustrated with him just talking to me whenever he wanted to. And so he sends this apology. He's like, oh my gosh, yes, you're right, boom. And so after that, that's kind of when it started to become, let me actually call this person. Let me actually see if they're a really good person. Which kind of speaks to his character in a way where it's like, dang, like it took this person 1 year, if not 1.5 years, to start to realize that my friendship had value to him, right? From that point forward, you guys, we begin to become the closest friends ever, except he's in one place, I'm in this place. We would not see each other until the end of that year. He goes from never calling me to me being the only one calling him to him being the sole contactor. He would call me, we would spend hours and hours on the phone. And so now that we're in this place, I'm starting to believe that, oh my gosh, Lord, that you were preventing us from being really close because you wanted us to establish a genuine friendship. You wanted it to be holy and purified, right? Only for us to come together and we become the closest of friends. When I tell you guys, we were super good friends. We would talk all the time, share very vulnerable things. He would become very vulnerable, and I could tell that he trusted me. I also, in this time, I believe that the Lord is calling me to move to a certain city. And so now I am connecting the dots, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, you're doing this. And this is what you wanted to do, right? You're leading me and this person together on top of leading me to another city. I believe that the Lord is relocating me to Texas, if I'm being honest with you. And so I plan a trip. I begin to plan a trip to go to Houston. And in my mind, I was like, well, it's not because I just want to be with him. I'm doing it because this is where the Lord wants me to be. I want to do it because God wants me to be in Houston, not because this person just happens to be in Houston, right? And so I planned this trip. We're conversing and we're talking about what we're going to do at the trip. I get to Houston, guys. Mind you, at this point, me and this guy are like, you can tell that we like each other. You can tell that he likes me, and I can tell that obviously I like him. And so I get to the trip. I have an amazing time with him. Essentially, things go well for the most part. But on the trip, essentially this guy is still my friend. There's not really any progression in terms of romance and us getting into a relationship. Boom, I leave Houston. We're in the best. He's treating me even sweeter. You would have thought this man wanted to marry me, y'all, the way he was talking to me. One really pivotal thing that happened on that trip that led me to really believe that this man was my husband was we were at my Airbnb, and this person gets on his hands and he gets on his knee and he pretends to propose. He does something like this, like as if he would propose, right? And I'm like, Lord, I knew I heard you, right? God, I knew I heard you. No. Another thing happens, this person's like, hey, like, what if I was your husband? Like, what if I Like, what would you say if I turned out to be your husband? I was like, wow, that would be really, I had a really good way of masking what I believe the Lord told me. There was never a point where I told this person, God told me that you're my husband. I wanted to give him the space to come to that on his own, in his own timing, right? But there are a lot of things that were happening that I was like, oh my gosh, he's starting to figure it out. You know, he started asking questions like, you know what, KT, I would date you, or, you know, you actually would be a nice, you know, he would do a lot of things like that. But now that I'm looking at it, it was really false hope. It was a lot of talking and no action and no moving. But that at the time was more than the person had ever done. And so I'm like, wow, God, you're connecting this together. January comes, we have an honest conversation. I'm like, hey, I think you like me. Do you like me? He's having the hardest time, y'all, admitting that he cares about me, that he likes me. But like I told y'all, ring, 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 24/8. And so it becomes this thing where it's like, nah, I'm just your friend. Like, we just friends. And I'm like, you was just flirting with me the other, you know, and it became this thing of confusion, right? And so now I'm essentially trying to convince a man that he likes me. If you don't take anything from this video, never ever convince or try to convince a man that he likes you. If a man denies the fact that he's interested in you, true, bet. Regardless of what he's doing in the cut, whatever he's telling you, whatever his actions are, if the man say he don't like you, he don't like you. Leave it at that. We have a conversation. He tells me that he's my friend. I get upset. I say, hey, boom, I'm finna go on a date. I lied, not finna go on no date. And so from that point, we stopped talking. And so 3 months passed before I hear from him. Long story short, in that time, I'm starting to come to my senses, and I'm like, God, this doesn't sound like something that you would send me. I don't believe that you would send me a man that would grow close to me and be intentional with me and then up and stop talking to me with no communication. This just does not sound like a man of God to me. I kind of battled with that for about 3 months. And then I get to a point where I talk to my friend and she's like, friend, this sounds like confusion. I said, you know what, friend? It does sound like confusion. And everything I just told you guys started to hit me, and it started to make sense, and I started to realize this has been deception and that this was never from the Lord. And I found that the enemy had used a lot of those small moments that I was taking to keep me, to kind of string me along. But one thing I'll say is the Lord will never send you a gift that's unwrapped. He'll send you a complete, beautifully wrapped gift, and it'll be ready for you when you get it. The Lord will not toy around with your emotions and have you just waiting forever. Guys, it was almost 2 years that I had waited for this person. This person was the exact same, if not maybe a little better than he was when I first met him 2 years prior. This person should be growing. If the Lord's gonna call you guys to a friendship, there should actually be some type of progression. This person should not be the same. I found that I was outgrowing him actually, but there were just a lot of things about his character that did not reflect a man of God. And I think what I found was that I was almost trying to convince myself, well, the Lord is preparing him. The Lord is trying to keep us in a place of friendship so that he can grow, and then he'll use me to kind of minister to him. All these things that the enemy was just convincing me of. And it's like, no, it won't be hard, especially in the beginning. If it's hard, that's not from the Lord. It should be almost like so smooth and so easy. Yes, we connected really well, but it wasn't until 1.5 years that he finally decided to be my friend and finally decided to actually give me the time of day, right? That should have been a #1 sign. I remember talking to someone and I was like, I told them these things at the time. I was like, he just doesn't really talk to me. Oh my gosh, but I know the Lord told me he's my husband. She said, I ain't gonna lie to you, that doesn't sound like, I wouldn't be worried about him, to be honest. She said, I would not worry about this person. This person doesn't even really want to talk to you. You should move forward. But at the time, because I had convinced myself of what I believed was true, I didn't even hear what she said. But at that point, if I had stopped believing that, it would have only been 6 months, I think, that was something I was believing. It would not have turned into a whole almost 2-year experience. So without, I guess, dogging this person, the main thing I saw with this person that showed me that he wasn't really a man of God was his devotion to his relationship with Christ. It seemed that he struggled to really grow in that area. I think sometimes the way he would talk to me, the way he would speak to me, he seemed to be very slow to do certain things. And also too, he was having a really hard time admitting that he liked me. Like, Come on now, like what? Amongst other things, but essentially there was really not many things about this person that confirmed this word for myself. And so last dreams that I ended up having was I had a dream about this person. They were in a classroom. This is toward the end, or toward like March, April, when I started to finally realize that this is deception. I see him sitting in the classroom. I'm sitting in my grandmother's couch. She has this recliner in her house. I used to sit on the recliner when I was about 8 years old and play my dolls, right? I haven't sat on that recliner in years. So I'm sitting in that recliner. I see this person. I'm like, almost like I spectate, right? I see this person sitting on the floor with headphones, and they have an iPad and a crisscross applesauce on the floor in front of a smartboard in a classroom. I want to say there were other kids around, but that's not really important. But essentially, this person begins to say, "No, I'm not your husband." And so, but in the dream, I remember my response, my body started to sweat. I started to get really hot, and I got nervous, and I think my heart was beating really fast. And I think that was what I needed to see, that this person was not my husband. I remember asking the Lord, I was like, Lord, if this person is not my husband, I think I said something about show me him in a relationship, something like that. Show me him in a relationship, something of that nature. And I end up seeing him with another girl in a dream. Her name was similar to mine, but it was not my name. But I remember saying to myself, oh, that's just the enemy. The enemy just wants to confuse me. The delusion, okay, was on an all-time high. I remember this is toward the end of the deception. I remember seeing us driving. He's driving a convertible vehicle. He does not have a convertible in real life. And I remember I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and he's kind of looking at me as he's driving, like normal speed. And I look at my hair. My hair is like this, but it's just up. My twists look so old. Like they look like they have not been done in like a while, right? And at the first time I saw this dream in my deception, I was like, this just means that he's gonna lead me. And you know, he's just so enamored with my beauty that he's just staring at me while he's driving. But then once my spirits start kicking in, I said, well, wait a minute. If we are in a car and he's staring at me, but he's still driving foot on the pedal, we could potentially hit something. This could lead to destruction. I think the Lord was trying to tell me that he did not have the ability to lead me properly without causing something to happen, something negative to happen. I got to a point where I realized that this had been deception the entire time, and that none of the dreams I was having was from the Lord. If anything, by that time I had begun to self-manufacture certain dreams because of my hopes and because of my expectations of him. I started to dream of those things, along with the enemy using some of the things that he would say to kind of keep me in this false hope and keep me in deception. If you are a dreamer, if you are someone who has visions, it's so important to recognize the source of dreams. It's so important to sit with the dream that you've had before you go and run with the interpretation, or at least what you think is the interpretation. Ask the Lord for what it means. Do not run with every dream. You may have 5 dreams of a man, and you might see him, y'all might be in a bed, whatever the case may be, but that doesn't mean that it's from the Lord, and that does not mean that that's the interpretation. Sit, write the dreams down. I have this book where it's called I downloaded the I guess the Kindle version of it, and it's called The Dream Interpreter by Billy Wong. I use this book essentially whenever I need to figure out what certain symbols in my dreams mean. But like I said, I didn't get this until maybe a year after I realized that this person was not my man. But this book has been an aid to help me figure out what certain things mean, and it'll give you the good version, and it'll give you the bad version of the dreams. But that's only to show and prove that every dream you have is not going to be good. Every dream you have is not from God. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's important. I think the second thing is to recognize when you've encountered a counterfeit versus a God fit, right? This person, he looked the part. But this person, his character and the things that he modeled, they didn't reflect Jesus. It did not. We have to stop being so sold off of words, guys. Words and actions have to be in conjunction with each other to produce any type of fruit, right? This person is saying, oh my gosh, you're so cute. Oh my gosh, I would date you. Oh my gosh, I would marry you. But it's like, when you gonna do it? After a while, someone should be progressing. They should be growing. They should not be the same as they were a year ago today, right? This person was the exact same. He did not grow up, y'all. He was the exact same. But I'm still convincing myself that he's gonna grow up where the Lord is doing this, and you know, the Lord is da-da-da-da, and he would not respect me. Some of the ways he would talk to me, he was disrespectful to me. He would always tell me about some girl he was talking to, but he would still be on the phone flirting with me. He's gonna grow up, you know, the Lord wants me to intercede for him and on his behalf. God, why am I being put up to all this work? Why do I have all these tasks and I don't even have a ring? The Lord is not calling you to intercede and fast and do all these things on behalf of a person that's not even committed to you guys. Now, unless it's on a ministerial level, this is solely for the kingdom. But if this is the man that you believe God has called you to be with, and y'all ain't even dating yet, why does God want you to do all of that? He doesn't. He don't. After I realized that this was deception, I had to deal with the emotions of that. I found that I connected to this person spiritually. Like, there was a deep spiritual connection that I had grown with this person because I was praying, interceding, and hoping, and I had so much faith that I began to genuinely want to be his friend, and I desired a friendship with him. But it was also just to a point where I saw the potential. This person had a lot of potential, but I got sold on his potential. I believe that this person probably would have proposed to me eventually when he realized that he had value in front of him and that he had favor in front of him. But who's to say that would not have taken another 3 years for him to realize this, right? But it's not my job. It's not your job either to sit and wait for a person to recognize the value that you come with. It's really quite embarrassing, actually. And you should just never get to a point where you're willing to wait for someone to get to where they need to be so that they can be with you. No. It was really sad after a while. I think I cried a few tears, but more so it was just like a wow. Like almost 2 years I believed a lie? Really? I was like, I remember being so sure, y'all. I remember being so sure. I would ask the Lord for the signs, wonders, and moves, right? And I believe that I was getting those confirmations. But what I found is that when the Lord sees that when you have a place where you're just so convinced and you think you know the answer, and even though I was praying and asking the Lord to confirm these things, which he was showing me that they were lies, but because I saw that all those confirmations from the Lord were lies, it's like the Lord can only do so much. He'll begin to give you over to your idolatry, and I believe that that's what happened. Although I still do believe the Lord was faithful in showing me like, no, this is wrong. Look how he's talking to you. He was showing me in the physical and in the spiritual that this person was not the person I was supposed to be with. But I had convinced myself that I've had signs, I've had wonders, I've seen dreams, but really these were all deception. It was all deception. I had to pray and ask the Lord to help me surrender that. Help me to surrender the connection spiritually that I made with this person so that I can move forward. And yeah, that was around May. I had a few rough patches, but now it's to the point where I don't even think about this person. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't actually have a prophetic gift. I don't actually have a gift of dreaming, because if I did, I would not have believed this for this whole time. But then I remember, I guess it was the Holy Spirit telling me like, no, you do have a gift of dreaming. It's just that you didn't know how to decipher the source, essentially. You didn't know how to tell if this is from me or this is from the enemy or if it's from your own self. But I think that was something that I got from it. Although it was not fun to wait for 2 years for nothing, I got from that learning the importance of establishing the source of a dream before running with it. I just had to debunk. I was like, no, I do have a gift of dreaming. I've seen things and I've told people, and these things have happened. This was just something that I failed to recognize, but I realized that it was because I had idolized marriage. If you guys have not already saw my video where I talked about how I still idolize marriage, even though I've told you guys to stop doing it, even though I've had moments where I felt like I wasn't, I found myself in that exact same place. But if you guys would like to go see my video about idolizing marriage, I will link it in the cards above. By the rejecting what the Lord was saying, I failed to, okay, God, wait a minute. If this is your word, and if this is the man that you called me to be with, then why am I having dreams that counter this? Lord, what is this? What's the source? I never questioned the dreams. Instead, I completely shunned them and turned my eye to them because I had made up in my mind that what I was seeing was true, right? And so that reveals idolatry. That reveals a level of idolatry, because it got to a point where I'm rejecting what the Lord is telling me, or I'm not even considering what his stance is. Instead, I believe that I know everything. I'm glad I did tell this man I thought he was my husband, because that would have been embarrassing. in the process of me having these dreams, I remember there would be some dreams where I had a man with no face in the dream, but I could see his skin color. And then there would be dreams where I had a man, it was this guy, it was the guy that I'm telling you guys about. And I saw him in the flesh, but in my dreams. But I remember getting them intertwined. I thought that these were the same person. And let me tell you something, y'all. If we look at my first dream that I had, the first dream I had was a man with no face, but I could see his skin color, I could see his body, I could see the things around us. But when it came to this guy, I started to have dreams of him, and now he's been inserted in my dreams. But somehow, guys, I was still having dreams with the man with no face. And I think that was a difference between the Holy Spirit and the dreams that were, I believe, were self-manufactured by obviously by myself. Where I would have dreams where I'm talking about boundaries with a certain man, or I had dreams where, oh Lord, I saw a proposal. There would just be different things that I saw, but it was always with a person who did not have a face. And I think that's super symbolic of the Holy Spirit. And the Lord was, I believe, still telling me like, no, this is what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But even looking at certain natures of certain dreams where it's like, I'm talking about boundaries with this person, but I would think that it was him. But if I look at it in a real life's perspective, we didn't have no boundaries. That would never even be a conversation that he would initiate. But with this particular man, when we're talking about boundaries, that sounds like a pure thing, right? I also remember a dream that really confused me and threw me off. It was a dream I had of this man and my dad, and the dreams were colliding. It would be where I remember he was in the street. It's super sunny. See, it looks cute, right? It's super sunny. He's in the middle of the street. There's ongoing traffic, and he's like, come here, come run to me. And I think I ran to him, but I remember being like, we're in the middle of the street. And immediately as we begin to cross the street, it switches over to my father, and I see it switch over, and now I'm texting him. I'm texting the guy I'm talking to you about, but I'm with my dad. But essentially, I remember that dream being symbolic of this person being similar to my father, having similar characteristics of my dad. Without talking about my father, that's not something that I want. That's not good. Like that, it can sound really cute. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be just like my dad. And it's like, my dad has good characteristics about himself, but he also has things that are not characteristics that I want from a husband. If you believe that you know who your husband is, take it to the Lord and ask the Lord to shut your mouth, shut your feelings and your emotions up, and show you why this person is your husband, and also to show you why he is not your husband. And be patient and ask the Lord to help you to be obedient to the word. After I stopped talking to this guy, there were other men that came. There were other men that I thought that were my husband, and it's like, nah, still not him. But every time I noticed that the Lord has been giving me warning dreams. I've always had warning dreams, but I didn't realize that that's what it was. But every time I would talk to a guy, the Lord would show me, I would have a dream about this person. He would show me why this was not the person, and I had to be obedient and dismiss that person. We're here now. We're still waiting. We're still being intentional. We're still giving the Lord the space and trusting God. The word in Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. The Lord knows that you want to be married. The Lord is faithful, and he will do such. Pay attention to your dreams. I'd say take every dream you have to the Lord, especially when it's something about something romantic. Pay attention to those dreams and ask the Lord to reveal those things to you. But also, even if you are having dreams of a man and you have seen a man and you feel like you have seen your marriage, amazing. What I need you to do is try your best, make it your business not to idolize those dreams, not to idolize what you're seeing, and to move forward and go about your life as though, not that you ain't seen it, but you know what I'm saying, y'all. So another thing I wanted to mention while I was rewatching my video, I wanted to briefly explain the indecisiveness, even with me being so sure when it came to the person that I thought I was going to marry. What I mean by that is I would always search up YouTube videos. How do you know when God told you who your husband is? God told me who my husband was. I would always go on YouTube and searching for those videos so that it could affirm me and help me feel more confident about what it is that I believed. Now, at the time, I thought that was just more so me doing it as a way to increase my faith, help me to stay encouraged, that type of thing. But I found that I would always try every opportunity I had. I would go when I would ask mentors, I would ask people who were in the church, I would ask my pastor's wife, like all kinds of different things and people to help me feel better about what I was believing. But what I think that really revealed is, one, the lack of clarity. 2, the confusion. And 3, the absence of God in terms of his will in that aspect, where it's like, if the Lord has told you something, you're not going and asking people, okay, like, I saw this and I just want to know, like, okay, how you feel about it. Even though I may not say it in a way where I'm trying to get your affirmation, but I know in my heart that that's why I'm asking you. I've never had to do that, unless it was something where I'm trying to get confirmation. But if I say that I know the Lord has told me this thing via the word, via whatever it is I seen, you know what I'm saying, whatever, I'm not going and I'm asking folks. I know God told me I'm going to dental school, and I know he told me I'm going to UAB. I'm not asking nobody if they think that that dream was what it meant. I'm already knowing, because the Lord has given me peace about that. And so because of that, I think that's something to pay attention to. Do you have peace about it? Not just a peace where it's like, you know, that's my man, it is what it is, but true peace to the point where you know that this is unshakable. You can move and you can go with this. I had so much shakiness and so much I didn't have any clarity. Even though I believed it with all I had, there was still a big part of me that did not believe it, because that was why I was going and I was watching these videos and asking people. So really just check where you are. But outside of all that, understand that the heart is deceitful above all things, and that even though you may have peace about something, that does not mean that it's God, and that does not mean that it's his will. You can still be confident, and you can be confidently wrong, right? So just don't get to a point where you feel like you know. Even if you know, ask God to show you. You know what I'm saying? God, show me why this is right. God, show me why this is not right, you know? But anyways, I hope this video was helpful. Like I said, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more videos. Peace.